Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? And welcome to another class of Year 6 Geography. This is Mr. Fadi Abubakar speaking. This is this week's lesson. So let's start. So before we start the lesson, I would like you to go through the usual, which is the revision from the previous lesson, in which I all hope we understood. So the first question is, what is coastal erosion? You guys, we spoke about this multiple times. I'm sure you guys remember. Very easy questions. What is a longshore drift? And what are caused when the seawater erodes the rocks? All right. So that's the simple revision just for the previous lesson, just to refresh in your minds. And let's start today's lesson. So we have sand dunes and people. Seems interesting. This is a small picture of a sand dune, just to get you in the picture. Okay. So, what happens to dry sand on a beach when it is windy? If the wind is blowing towards the land, some of the sand would be blown along and will collect behind any kind of shelter, including stones, pieces of wood, and even old shoes. Okay? And eventually, the sand piles up into small sand dunes. And as time passes, these sand dunes may blow away or they may grow bigger. As more sand heaps up on them, a grass called marram grass may start to grow on the dunes. You have the diagram on your right is an example of marram grass. I'll get to that in just a second. So later, other plants, including shrubs and trees, will grow on the dunes, and eventually the sand dunes will form new land. Okay? So on this diagram, this is page 34 of your books, shows an example of the marram grass. And it says that marram grass has a dense mesh of underground stems that binds the sand together to help form a sand dune. When we say marram grass has a dense mesh, it means a mixture of underground stems, and this binds the sand together to help form a sand dune. Okay, let's look at the next slide. So, first we should understand what sand dunes means furtherly and how are they formed. So, sand dunes are created when wind deposits sand on top of each other until a small mound starts to form. And once that first moon forms, sand piles up on the windward side more and more until the edge of the dune collapses under its own weight. A simpler definition, if that seems a little complicated, is that a dune is a landform composed of wind or water, which is driven sand, and it typically takes the form of a mound, ridge, or hill. That's essentially what a sand dune is. Basically, in other words, it's loose sand building up. Okay? So sand dunes, in other words, is just loose sand building up. As we said, they're created when wind deposits sand on top of each other until a small moon starts to form. What does that tell you? It tells you that the sand just keeps building up and building up, essentially forming that sand dune. Okay? The question is, where are they? So here we can see two pictures of a beach and the desert. These are two examples of where we would find sand dunes. This is a very nice beach. I wish we had one like that just in Sudan. But inshallah, in the future we will. And the other picture is just the desert. And if you can see the picture clearly, there are typical sand dunes just right in where the beach is and right where this desert is. Okay, so that's where we can find sand dunes. Let's go to the next slide. Here we have blowouts. So sand dunes are very fragile. And if people walk through the sand dunes and make a new path, or if children play or dig in the sand, they damage the thin layer of plants that protect the sand dunes. And the next time there is strong wind, it may blow through the gap in the plant cover and produce what we're about to define right now, which is what a blowout is. So what a blowout means is it's a large hole or hollow in the dunes where sand has been blown away by the wind. Okay, so let me just go through this one more time, just for you guys to understand. So we already said that sand dunes are very fragile, means they are very, very sensitive. So when people are walking through the sand dunes, they make a path, can clearly see the footsteps. Or if children are playing or digging in the sand, they damage the thinner layer of the plants, and this layer protects the sand dunes. Okay? And then the next time that wind comes, it blows the gap, and then it produces the blowout. The picture on your right is an example of a blowout. You can find it on your books on page 35. And here it says that this blowout among sand dunes was caused by walkers taking a shortcut to the beach. Okay, hope that was clear. Let's hop on to the next slide. So, why are sand dunes important? Sand dunes are important as homes for several interesting and unusual plants and animals. They are also extremely important to people because they help to stop the sea flooding inland. Okay, this is really good. So now we know why sand dunes are really important. Now we know they're homes for a few exotic, by exotic I mean few rare animals, essentially interesting or unusual plants, and they are also important to people because they help to stop the seas from flooding inland. Okay, I hope that was clear. For your homework, year six, I'd like you to answer questions on page 34 and 35 on your workbook. And I'd also like you to watch the link that I posted right here. Just like last time, you could just click on the word sand dunes and it will automatically redirect you to YouTube for the video itself. And this video gives you further insight and gives you more details about how sand dunes were formed and why are they important and most of the stuff that we just spoke about. The difference is it's just in the form of a video and I'm sure you guys will enjoy. Okay, so you have the questions on page 34 and 35 on your workbook. This will be your lesson for this week. Hope you enjoy it and I hope to see you all very soon. Goodbye.